2. I'd like to thank everybody for coming. Let's go to roll call.
Eldon Larson.
I'm here.
Rhonda Robertson.
Here.
Andrew Bushman.
Present.
Dayton Flake.
Here.
Karsten Flake.
I'm here.
Thank you. That brings us to Pledge of Allegiance. Do we have a volunteer to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I'll do it. Stand. Salute. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, do we have a volunteer to give the invocation? Thanks, Kirsten.
Our dear Heavenly Father, as we come before Thee, we're grateful for wonderful opportunities we have to serve and the opportunity we had to vote today. Please have Thy hand over our election and our country as we voted, and that the best things will work out. Help us as we make decisions for the school, that things will be according to Thy will. And we say these things in the name of Thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thanks, Cardi.
I move we adopt the agenda as presented.
I'll second it. You need any discussion, or does anybody think that anything needs to be moved around? Okay, call for the vote. Myself, yes. Karsten?
Yes.
Andrew?
Yes.
Dayton? Yes. Rhonda?
Yes.
All right. The next one's yours, too.
I move that we approve the minutes of October 11th as presented.
I'll second it.
Karsten?
Yes. Any discussion on that? Okay, let's call for the vote. We'll start with Rhonda.
Yes.
Dayton? Yes. Andrew?
Yes.
Karsten?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Just do that through.
You flat threw me for a loop.
Okay, that brings us to superintendent's report.
Yes, thank you. We don't have a whole lot of items on the agenda today, but we do have some things in my report I wanted to bring to your attention. Originally, Matt Weber from NAVIT wanted to do a presentation here today, and he's asked that we postpone that to next month. So I told him we would do that, and he likes doing that usually at the beginning of the meeting. He'll give us some of the, our enrollment numbers, financial information, things like that, how the programs are going. Our winter sports season have started. Participation is pretty good in all those sports, and things look promising. The other seasons just ended. I don't know if you guys want an update, but we can ask Mr. Miller if anybody wants an update on. You might already know how the teams did.
I'd like the public to know.
Okay, Mr. Miller, you want to take it? Or you want me to try?
No, I can definitely do it. Our volleyball team just barely finished last week. They made it to the semifinals of the state tournament. They lost to the eventual state champion in the 5th game. It was a really tight game, an exciting game that could have gone either way. We're pretty proud of them. Our football team also had a great year. They ended up making the playoffs as the 11th seed, I believe, and then ended up pulling off an upset in the first round and beat the Cicero Prep down in the valley, who was a 6th seed, beat them in the first round. So that was exciting for the boys.
First time ever an 11 seed beat a 6 seed.
Wow.
Just the two.
No, anything below like a 10 beating anything above.
In 8-man football, it's not very common for low seeds to win.
No, it's not.
And then, so those are the two men. Cross country is, they had 2 qualify. They had their state qualifying meet, sectional meet this past weekend, and Bryce Bushman and Bandon Johnston qualified. They run this weekend, I think it's Saturday, down in the valley for the state tournament, the state cross country meet. So I think Bryce did he finish 7th, I think, or 8th? I don't remember. He finished up there, 10 or above in the sectional meet, so.
Do you know offhand any of the participation rates for the sports right now?
Currently?
Yeah.
Boys basketball has 21. Girls basketball has in the low 20s. Wrestling, today was their first, yesterday was their first official practice. They had just a little meeting, and I haven't made it to practice since they started, and I have not looked at their numbers. So. I know they have at least 8, but I don't know if they have more than that or not.
Awesome. We have a musical next week, the high school musical, and I think we have quite a few students participating in that. That's the 16th, 17th, and 19th. They're right in there, so it's like a Wednesday, Thursday.
Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday.
So that's exciting. A lot of Mary Poppins, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We had the Halloween carnival. It was very well attended. Actually 2 weeks ago, but went well. A lot of staff, parents, students there, volunteers to make it go. It's still, I don't know if we have the financial report completed. I haven't received it. It's in. So I haven't asked for it. That's why I haven't received it. So. There's some other things on the report that might be of interest. I won't take a lot of time on them, but a professional development training plan where we can reimburse for training or certification above and beyond what they typically get. That may take extra time, but isn't necessarily done during the regular school day, where they don't get a raise on the salary schedule for it. That's what we want to try and address. Maybe like the student transportation certificate that we are lining out, since it's a little extra work, and there's some coaching certification that we'd like to promote. And so I thought some board members would like to hear that. So, and I've got that from like 3 different people unrelated about this could be a good program. So I'm looking forward to trying to get that put together. The difficulty is trying to decide when the training will happen. If it's during their normal work day, we typically don't reimburse extra. But in some cases, like this student transportation, a lot of times that's being done after hours, or they might do it in their prep, pushing their prep work after hours. But we have to really look at that, so we're doing the right thing. We did get it last month. The board member mentioned our Chromebook program and measuring that, and so we did a survey, and we have some results back, but really not enough yet. So we got about 17 back. We're going to send that out again and promote that a little bit more. See what happens. We'd like to get more input. I did some follow-up on our pool situation from last meeting, just to make sure our lifeguards and staff were aware of some of the concerns. One thing, that I think has made it a little tougher for us to staff. It's tough to staff that anyway with high schoolers, but moving it up earlier. So we're going to maybe look next year at pushing that time back. The pool manager is going to look at that, maybe to, instead of a 4:30 open swim, going a little bit later. I don't like the fact that we have students waking up that early, because I think it can affect their learning. Quite frankly, that's the first thing I thought of, is the student health. Unless we can find an adult that wants to be a lifeguard. But anyway, so that's what that is. We have some results in on the school.
So don't we have pretty much the same folks that do the swimming?
As every year, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you present it to them that maybe one of them ought to be the lifeguard?
Mm-hmm. Sure, that's a good idea. I'll do that. I don't know.
Because they're the ones that fuss the most, so. And I'd be glad to talk to them if you don't want to tell them.
The training actually used to be, some of that, I think they do aerobic, and I don't want to speak out of turn here, but the training used to kind of be tough to become a lifeguard. There was some physical, you had to swim so many laps nonstop. I don't know if that's still in place. So that can be tough because a lot of the exercise people that, you know, the exercisers that go in, they just like jog in place or tread water or do, you know, just rehab type exercises. Whereas to get the lifeguard cert, it used to be, that's swim like a mile nonstop or something. But I do think that's a possibility still.
Yeah, I mean,
Did it used to be?
let them help at least find someone.
The challenge with doing that is if they're a lifeguard, they can't technically swim. They're supposed to supervise, so they would lose the ability to work out.
But they could have a partnership with maybe one of them. They trade in and out with there's two of them. I don't know. We can look at it. I think we can.
Did it used to be 5 or something?
5 laps or what?
Did it used to start at 5 o'clock? And
Yeah,
then this year we
yeah.
moved it to 4:30?
I don't know if it was just this year. It might have been a couple years ago. They moved it to 4:30 at the request of some folks. The pool manager wanted to do it. I said, go ahead if that's what everybody wanted. But once school starts, I just don't like our students, you know, waking up that early. A lot of them need to.
Some of them are probably in the play too, and that practice lasts till.
Some of them go to the pool and then sleep, so
Yeah.
which is not allowed. No, but yeah, it's something we want to address. Keep it as safe as possible for patrons. We got some data back on our school letter grades, and so I included it in. It's right with my report there. Some data, and so our high school performed very well. And did you data
Somewhere. Around here.
I have a copy that I was going to refer to for myself. That you can take this one.
I have one copy.
You want to give her yours? Or?
I'll give it back.
I just
I just want to look.
So I don't want to spend a lot of time on it unless you have questions, but I will say, you know, our high school has typically done well, and they still did. I'm probably going to submit appeal on the high school to see if we can increase our points because for some reason, well, I know the reason, but they changed the formula, and our students who were in a graduation cohort didn't meet the threshold, so we got no points out of 10 possible, which probably would have raised the high school grade. So I have a few more days to get that appeal in, so I'm planning on submitting that.
So do you know, is that off of like a percentage?
It's
Yeah, 'cause
yeah, yeah, it
it
is.
doesn't make sense why we'd be that much lower than the rest.
Right.
I mean, because if you only have
That's what I
30
thought.
kids
Everybody else got
and
all.
one doesn't graduate versus 300 kids and 30 don't graduate.
Absolutely. That's one of the things I'm going to bring up. Our sample size. So if we have roughly 30 or so kids, that's 3% a student. So when we have 2 or 3 that drop out, and when we say drop out, it means they unenroll us and maybe they homeschool and it's never on record, or they go to enroll at another school and never do, or out of state and we can't track them. Those count as dropouts against us. Typically, we're up at around 100% with graduation. That's why this one stung a little bit. With this specific cohort that they measured, it ended up being in the 80s, and so we didn't qualify. We're the only district in the area that I've seen. But we want to focus definitely on math is an area of concern for us. Our growth from one year to another with the elementary and junior high specifically. And if you look at that data, I'd like you to make sure to look at the proficiency. What they mean by proficiency is the amount of kids who pass the test. If you're going to compare us, I think that's an important part to look at. Even though our kids maybe didn't grow as much as some other ones in the area, and we want to address that. It's easier to grow if you're very low than if you're already high. And we do have some high performing students that their growth might have been outperformed by a lower performing student.
So the growth what?
So what they do is they take proficiency, that's the number of kids that pass the test, and they also take an average of how much students grew from one year to the next. And that's how they come up with your school scores. And
Okay, so how much of us taking kids from surrounding areas is that affecting us?
I don't know, but that's one thing I can dive into and look at.
Because I was told by a real good source that a lot of the ones we're getting are the ones that they got nowhere else to go.
Highly disagree with that statement. And
Well, it might be
Okay, and I'm just,
Checked out state.
okay, let me put it to you this way, the person that said it was not somebody that didn't know what they were talking about.
Well, I accept all the kids for the junior high and high school, and there's a process that they have to go through. And I would say typically we have some of the better students that come.
What percentage
We can look that up.
What
of the ones that you take?
are better students?
Yeah.
I would just be guessing, but I would say 80 to 90% are good kids. 75% are some of the better students.
We'll look up some scores. We could do some research and put numbers behind it.
Curious who that was and where they got their information. Are they going off? Well, we can talk.
Doesn't matter because we'll get the actual data and
Trust
we'll
me
look
when
at it.
I say it was not someone just picking it out of the air.
Apparently it was, because it's not true. I'm the one that
I
sees all
trust
the
you,
numbers,
so we
lets them in, but they can have their own views, I guess.
that'll give me something to focus our data down on and unpack that. I'm going to unpack some of the specific students that didn't meet growth too, and the principals and I will meet over that.
Well, they
Do you
couldn't
know
be two
what
grader, we wouldn't be
specifically
getting
is-
D's.
Do you know what specifically is looked at for growth?
Yeah,
And
it's what they call it, SGP, student growth percentile, and they have a student growth target. So, and they take both of those into an algorithm, and so they have a target for grade specific growth, and then how much the kid grew against his peers in the state from the previous year. So they group a kid. It gets a little tricky here, but they group a kid 1 year, and they compare to that group how much they grew against that group. So
So just out of theory, if you had a kid that's in the top of the group and they're still in the top of the group the next time, but everybody that was under him got closer to him because they had more room to grow, they get more growth points than the kid that was already at the top of the group, correct?
That's part of our problem too, I would suspect.
right. But what I was referring to is a little bit different. So if you had like a kid that performed in the 40th percentile, they group that kid in with the 40th percentile of the rest of the state, and then they compare his growth against the rest of those kids. So what I was saying was a little bit different, but that is accurate. When you talk about if someone performed well on the test, their growth is definitely could be compared against, at least partially, against the lower performers the following year.
But this gives us an idea of what we can analyze and try and
Improve
improve.
on.
Even if some of it's not due to our size, kind of throws our numbers off, we still have somewhere to improve and we got a little direction.
Yeah, and we're definitely going to drill down on that, focus down. A few months ago, I included this in a board packet, but it kind of gives a summary of our scores. Each grade, the lowest components, but math is an area that we really want to hit. We, of course, science, but language and writing is another one that we really want to look at closely. And we have some new software, some things we're doing to do that. I think we're going to look at more interventions on those Fridays and reach out to parents and invite those kids that are struggling on our benchmarks. Anyone we can identify when we can. Not just enrichment, but focus more on those lower performers. And the principals have a few other ideas, but it's like Mr. Bushman said, it gives us some areas to focus on. The railroad closure, we did manage that okay. It did have a small impact, but we got through it. You see some other things on my report. If you have questions on them, feel free to back me up, but to address those. But we have some teachers that are receiving grants right now from APS. We had one up at the high school. Was that Poppy Denton? And then, I don't know if did she know that yet? She's probably not listening. And if they wanted to surprise her, they should have told me. No one said that one was a surprise.
Oh, good.
But two at the elementary who've already been notified. Do you want to tell the board who those were?
Kristen Beatty, 4th grade teacher, 5th grade teacher, and Ruth Hanson, a reading specialist.
All right. So that's good. Our high school math teacher was accepted into a curriculum writing program with the state, which is very exciting. I think our students are going to benefit from that. That's addressed in my report. Our special ed department and some district office staff, Julie, Steve Mills, and probably Stephanie was a big part of this. They had an audit, and like I put in my report, they said that we were the best one they've gone through this year so far. So wanted to give them a special thanks here. We have Veterans Day this week. Wanted to make a note of that. I'm starting to work on the calendar. We have some templates and things set up. I don't know if I be ready by December, but January definitely want to try and have that. We want to look at that pretty close. I think it's been suggested that maybe a committee, and I'm not opposed to a committee, but I don't know, if the purpose of the committee is to get more input, I don't know how we'll get any more input than typically we do with the survey. Because the surveys people participate with those, but the past 2 or 3 years, people have been equal on the things they want when it comes to school starting at a certain time. It's been very close, so I just don't want to waste people's time if we do a committee, as I thought about that. But I'm open to talk about it or whatever.
Karsten, you gonna fuss about it this year?
I will, more than
Okay, there you go.
I think if we can get a couple of high school or junior high and a couple of elementary parents or whatever, if there are people that have an interest in it, to put their name in the hat or whatever.
Is there anything you think specifically they should look at? Because I definitely have some educational concerns I want to focus on with our calendar, like keeping as many instructional days prior to the big test that the state is pushing out now, things like that. So, and I don't really want people to have a personal, like a vacation issue or, something like that, trying to strong arm a committee.
Yeah. I think there was, speaking from just me, no one else, I think as the survey last year was written, I think there was some people, in talking to them afterward, there was a little bit of confusion on a couple of the questions that maybe could have been worded different. But the first time you make a survey, it's hard to, when you read the survey yourself, you know exactly what it says. When someone else reads the survey, they don't necessarily. I think there's just some things like that that maybe get some input. I don't think trying to take over anything, but see what community has. If there's and if nobody has an opinion and nobody wants to get in it, then obviously they don't care.
Sure. Or, if sometimes they care, but they don't necessarily want to attend a committee meeting if they don't think the committee will follow what they want anyway.
And that could be too.
And their care might not be the same that I share as, an educator here either. So
and there are people more than likely that will show up and want a certain, whatever, and that can't happen. We obviously got to follow those rules.
So usually we do address the calendars at the site council, and actually Mr. Mosier has one this week. Is it tomorrow or, yeah. So he's gonna ask for input from parents there and see if we get any. And the district used to have like 2 or 3 calendar options and then just push that out to staff and let them vote. And the reason we kind of stopped doing that is because we ended up having like 5, 6 different calendars that when you listen to we'll do this, and so options ended up being a whole lot of options. So that's why it got changed to that survey that you're referring to. So my concerns will be the same they always have been, more instructional days and professional development days, maintaining our enrichment or intervention days where we can. This year we had a good thing. We had a little bit of cushion built in our calendar. We weren't expecting to have to shut down due to the fire panel, which we had to this year. It was one I hadn't seen before. All right, so maybe we'll get to work on a survey, and then if the board has, you guys want to reach out to me, either in writing or just call, whatever, about ideas you have, let me know. I'll meet with the principals, and at the site councils, we'll get input from the teachers, staff, parents, maybe even students, if we can reach out to them.
And if you already have site councils and stuff going forward, that's an opportunity for everybody to show up and voice their opinion. If they don't show up to that, why make another meeting?
I feel the same way. If we can handle the calendar, that gives the site council a good purpose, a good reason to meet too, and give them a little bit of authority. That's the other thing. If we set up a committee, the board's got to be ready to follow their recommendation on this if it's an official committee.
When is there a high school, junior?
I haven't set up a date yet, but it'll be in November sometime.
So we'll digest some of that and see where it lands. Hopefully December, but first I want to look at the data and see if there's any adjustments that might have a bigger instructional impact on the calendar, and that's what I will end up pushing. But so a couple other final things from my report. The old gym, there is still a drainage issue where some water's getting under that building. We're going to address that as soon as we get a gutter needs repaired, and then some concrete work out there. But we feel like it can be addressed. It's just needs to be sealed up and things like that. So, and the ASBA conference is next month. I think several of you are at least considering attending that. Please confirm with Julie when you can. I would like to go to that. It's right after our December board meeting. So, other than that, I can answer questions or back up to any report item that you'd like me to.
Anybody have any questions? Okay, thanks for the report. Mr. Fields?
Yeah.
Do we have anybody signed up for call to the public?
No,
Nope.
I was watching to see if you.
Okay. Let's go to consent agenda items. Make a motion that we approve the consent agenda items as listed.
I'll second.
Any discussion needed on that? That's numbers 4A, 4B, and 4C is in the consent agenda.
Thanks for the books, whoever the anonymous is.
Okay.
That's pretty
There was some books donated. That was
Someone
part of
donated
the
some books.
consent agenda.
Democratic National Committee.
Okay.
Were they good books?
I would assume so after the policy thing that we had last time. Okay, so if there's no discussion needed for consent agenda, let's call for the vote.
Yes.
Thanks, Karsten, Andrew, Dayton, Rhonda,
Yes.
myself, yes. Okay. That brings us to action items. Let's see. We got 5A. I'll make a motion that we approve the personnel requests as listed.
I'll second.
Any discussion needed?
I have a question. I want to ask.
Well, you're the only one.
Well, it's your time, so either yes or no.
Second or third? Eric, are all these, are all our winter sports ready now?
No, we just had a coach that had a pullout of wrestling, high school wrestling. So we're going to have to replace a coach there. And then we need, make sure he was on there. Then we need junior high boys basketball coach, 7th grade coach.
But that's not till January.
That's January, yeah.
That's still winter.
It is still winter.
Is that your question?
No, but I don't think I'm gonna ask it, so.
Okay. Well, don't feel pressured.
For pressure, but just curious.
All right, let's call for the vote. Andrew? Dayton? Yes. Rhonda?
Yes.
Myself, yes.
Yes.
Kirsten? Thank you. That brings us to 5B. I'll make a motion that we approve the electric vehicle charging rate as recommended.
I'll second.
Has anybody ever used it?
As a test, basically. So it was a visitor to the community that was related to an employee, and they asked, and since it had never been used, I told them, sure. So, and it worked fine. They tested it after they installed it too, the company, but yeah, that's it.
There, I can't remember what the agreement was. But have we met all our agreements and now we can start charging for it? Is that, or could we charge for it from the beginning, or I can't remember what it was set up.
Yeah, I believe we could charge for it. So I think they just wanted it accessible. I mean, that's a pretty low rate too. We're trying to incent them $2 an hour. It takes 8 hours for those mid-sized cars to do a full charge, and that's pretty. So 100, say it goes 150 miles. How much gas would that be? Gas would be definitely more than.
It depends.
The message is where you can't go to work because you got to wait 8 hours to go to work.
Yeah.
You lost a lot of money.
Yeah.
I would assume this at least breaks us even. I can't imagine it uses more than $2 an hour in electricity to charge it, does it?
I
Does anybody
would
know?
be a bit surprised if it's over that. You got to compare it to a welder.
I'd hate to lose money on it, but I think it's only 110.
I think it's a little bit more than that, but I did different research on this. So at one point they broke it down per kilowatt hour, what you pay, and when I had that number, it was a little bit higher, I believe. But then I researched a little deeper, and they range from $1 to $5 an hour. And that I'm okay if you guys want to change it too. This is just what I kind of came up with after thinking about it to incentivize use.
How much do they charge at Burger King in Holbrook?
I don't know. And those are Tesla
Well, the
ones.
Tesla, so it's all part of your card program.
Ah.
There's
You
a special
plug that thing in and they charge you for it.
Oh. So we wouldn't be able to find out anyway.
Unless you own one.
So it ranges between $1 to $5 an hour at places usually.
I think I was eating there, someone was charging their thing, and if I remember correctly, it's $20
An hour?
an hour. That's what I remember. I'm not saying that that's exactly what it is, but
And did they have to, how long did they have to charge for? Because the reason
2
I
hours.
asked, well, see, he's saying,
but that's a fast. If I understand correctly,
that's what
that's
I'm
a
wondering,
faster
if
one.
it's a fast charge. So it should charge, they should charge more money per hour if it's a faster charging.
Well, I guess at $2 an hour, if all of a sudden we have people lining up to charge on there, we know we didn't charge enough.
And we can always raise
adjust it. I don't think that's gonna
We
be a
get one
problem.
person, yeah.
We get one.
We get one person, we can figure something out.
Put a cover over it, Eric will start parking in the winter.
Okay, so any more questions on this? Let's move on if we can do the vote on this. Dayton?
Yes.
Rhonda?
Yes,
Myself, yes.
Yes.
Carson? Andrew, thank you.
I don't have a second on that.
Dayton.
Yeah, we did, Dayton did.
Thank you.
Peyton's on the ball today, he's wanting to go home.
Okay, that brings us to 6A, request for future agenda items. Do we have any requests for future agenda items? I missed anything, haven't I? Sounds like crickets. So let's move to 6B, upcoming meetings and events calendar. Looks like December 13th, 6 o'clock is the next meeting.
And those,
And then it has the new board member orientation December 14th. And the annual conference starts on the 15th and 16th. Any changes, discussion, anything needed? Since that's already set, we don't have to vote on those. This is gonna be good. That brings us to adjournment. I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second it.
Karsten seconds it.
Yes.
All for the vote. Karsten,
Yes.
Andrew? Yes. Myself, yes.
Yes.
Rhonda, yes. We all say yes on adjournment. We're adjourned. Thanks for coming. We have stuff to sign?
We need the